couple of things setting up today that we're going to talk about with streaming is why, how, and what. So those three things, a lot of times when it comes to streaming, especially in a church context. So a couple of integrators here, if you're working with churches, is, well, why do people want to do streaming? That seems to be a big thing. So before we jump into that, Will and I are going to introduce ourselves. So go ahead.
I'm Will Livingston with FOR-A of America and Compass Christian Church. So I'm actually part-time technical director here at the church stage where you see us at.
Awesome.
Yeah.
My name is Alfred Burgess. I work for an integrator, Strata ABL, and also this is my church that you see behind us. So I actually attend here and get to partner up with Will. So everything's decorated. We're on the stage. Things are already decorated for Christmas, and it's Christmas season. So if you have any type of Christmas production, you're around church, you know this is just busy time.
It's a busy time.
I want to say this. Thank you guys for taking time out of your schedule to join us on the webinar today, because we know that it's a busy time. So on a Wednesday, middle of the day, if you're like, hey, I'll give you a few minutes in here, thank you for that, because we understand it is a busy season for all of us right now doing what we do, especially in production. So the why behind streaming. So Will, you guys here at our church, you guys stream. You stream to multiple campuses. So you have multi-site, and also you stream up so people can view that online. So tell me what kind of the major purpose of that streaming is.
Yeah, so we've got a multi-site in Casa Grande. The church is located in Chandler, Arizona. We've got a site in Casa Grande that we stream to every Sunday, that so you can watch the same service, hear the same message, be on the same page across the board as far as service programming goes. But then we also have a big online audience here at Compass that really developed over COVID, where either you were old enough to be worried about coming to church and getting sick and wanted to stay home, and so that kind of thrived here for us at Compass, and we kept that going out of Compass, and we love having that as an option for people if you're not going to be able to come to church on a Sunday to be able to watch from, or we've got people all over the world, missionaries, that are watching our stream on a weekend. So it's
awesome.
It's a big part of what we do here in the production side of things, but also it's important to the church.
So would you say, as we're talking today, that really there's three categories of churches when it comes to streaming? One category could be those that you're just dipping your toe in it. You may have taken out an iPhone and you're like, hey, let's do Facebook Live for here, and we're just kind of dipping our toe into the streaming thing, and what's the next step here? Let's figure this out. What do we do? Or you'd have those people that, hey, they're already down the road a little bit. They're already streaming. It may be, hey, let's put this up on YouTube. Let's put it up on Facebook Live. But what do we need to do to take that experience and really make it better?
Take it to the next level. Yeah.
Or you have a third category over here that those people, it may be at a multi-site church, where not only are you streaming up through a CDN. By the way, CDN is just everybody, is content delivery network. That's what CDN stands for. And as you take that and you're like, hey, let me deliver that up to the cloud, and then it goes out to YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook,
your website, church online platform.
A ton of different areas.
Yeah.
You may also be streaming point to point to another campus that you have. So you may be down the road a little farther, and you're like, man, how do we actually do that and do it the most effective? Well, when you're looking at streaming, the question comes up, well, why are you doing that? Is it to build an online audience? Is it to build an online campus? Or is it just to use as promotion for your community? That people are walking in and they're checking you out, kind of drive before you buy, and they're just looking in, kind of just peering through the window to see what you're all about. How do you guys use that? Do you use that over all of those things?
Yeah, it's kind of a mixture of all of it. I know myself being, late 20s, I'm online quite a lot. And the way I look to, if I want to go to a church, is I'm probably going to hit your website and watch a service. So for me, it's a little bit of promotion. If we're out of town, or if the wife and I are traveling on a weekend, it's a good way for us to stay engaged with the church. But yeah, it's all over the place, where we've got, people that will never attend the physical location here, but they watch it online every week. We use it for promotion. We use it for the multi-site streaming as well. So, we kind of package everything together.
So for the purpose of the webinar today, let's think about the third category over here.
Mhm.
Those that are already kind of down the road of streaming a little bit, and you're like, hey, we're doing some of this, but what do we need to do it better? How can we actually, the whole purpose of this webinar, how can we actually save some money?
Yeah.
Why we do that? And then how do we do that, delivering it up to the cloud and also point to point for those multi-site church? So let's kind of concentrate on that third category of churches over here today. Yep. Does that sound good? All right. So here's my number one question for you. Okay. What do you typically spend right now on streaming?
So if you're an integrator or if you're a church watching this, you'll know that, you've got your encoders that you'll buy or your decoders that you'll buy for your multi-sites campuses. Those are hardware pieces that live, in a rack room or a pack booth or, wherever. So there's the cost of your encoders and your decoders. And then most of the time we're spending money on a CDN for the distribution side.
So you're spending money on a service.
We're spending money on a service to get our stream to its destinations.
Okay.
So
whether that be point to point or that be up to the cloud.
It could be and or.
So, okay. Yeah. And what, just give me a round figure on that. What do you typically spend monthly on that?
Monthly, I'd say $500 to $600 a month.
Okay. So in other words, you had to purchase.
Which adds up over the year.
So $500 times 12, that's $6,000 for the year. So you had to purchase the encoder and decoder to do
as a hardware cost. Yeah.
Okay. So you have hardware cost.
Yep.
And then you have monthly subscription cost. Yep. All right. So say I'm not doing multi-site and I don't need a decoder at the end. You just need an encoder delivering it up to the CDN, to whatever that is. Okay. So here are some questions along with that. Do you think that it would be advantageous for you as a church? And church world, big question comes up. That's what you're looking at. I'm sure if you put $6,000 in your pocket every year, you probably spend that on some other things that you needed in there. So you think that it's advantageous to go, hey, could I just buy hardware that would do this for me
and skip the subscription cost?
Skipping subscription. Yeah. Okay. So by the way, there are some great companies out there that do this. They're very easy. They're kind of one button, one touch, one easy, that do have subscription costs associated with that. But for the ease of use, that's why you pay the subscription cost. And most of the time it's a rack mounted computer. You have cards in there. That it's not necessarily a hardware appliance. It's more of a computer software appliance with some hardware attached to it. So you would say it would be advantageous for you to spend some money for hardware and to try to skip the subscription cost.
Yeah. And I think it's totally viable with several options on the market. You could host your own Amazon Web Service where that you're using that as your distribution. If you've got a team that can set something like that up for you, you could also have freelancers kind of set that stuff up for you and save long term in the subscription cost category. Or if it's just point to point, there's in my opinion, I don't think there's a reason to go to a cloud service for that just to buffer back down to your remote sites. I think you could set up a really good point to point with
and there's pretty good latency in there.
Yeah, there's great latency, there's great no latency.
Great latency. There you go.
Great latency.
So I've been a part of large multi-site church before, a couple of different states. And if you are going point to point, so if you're like, hey, we're multi-site, usually at the other end, your decoder end, usually there's a broadcast campus with the encoder. It's where you film everything and it goes out to multi-campus and you have decoders at that campus. Sometimes people will do a return feed, kind of an eye in the sky to see what that campus looks like. So you need an encoder on that end and a decoder on your broadcast end to be able to see that return feed. But really on that end, you need a time slip device.
Yeah.
So a time slip device.
You need something to be able to take in that video feed and audio feed and record into a DVR type device and play it back, time slipped, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you want. But it needs to continuously record as you're playing back.
So very few churches do straight up live.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Just asking.
Yeah,
I was at a church that tried that. It didn't go well.
Yeah, production guys in the chat, let me know if you've ever tried to go live like that. It's not fun. So
yeah, there you go. So you need a time slip device at the other end of that point to point. So we can talk about that, or if you have questions about that, put that in the chat. But really for this, we're going to talk about streaming up to the cloud, because that seems to be where a lot of the subscription costs come in, or in that CDN and delivering that service up there. So as you take a look at streaming, what are like the multi types of different protocols that are used to stream up to the cloud, or either point to point? What are those protocols?
Yeah, I think the most popular that you'll find in your encoders and your decoders is a ZXC protocol. That, it takes your RTMP feed and turns it into a ZXC protocol, where your cloud service or your multi-site itself, the decoder that's living on that site, is waiting for each individual packet to be delivered as video. Some of the challenges with that is you could be waiting on packet number 39, and packet number 39 never comes, and it won't move on. So that's one of the protocols that I see most often used. You could do just straight up point to point RTMP, or you've got SRT, which comes from another manufacturer.
And there's
several options
for the most part. SRT's been pretty good.
Yeah, and for the most part, all of them have been solid.
Okay. So what is RIST?
So RIST is a protocol that several news networks have used in the past, that wasn't widely adopted as a ZXC or an RTMP protocol was. So what RIST is doing is taking multiple sources. So you're taking your SDI, you're taking your Dante feeds at your site. You could do multi-track sends up to 16 channels per SDI feed to your multi-sites. Allows for some pretty cool production there. But you can take all of those protocols, your PTZ controls, your NDI protocols, and package that into a RIST tunnel, is what we call it here at FOR-A.
Okay.
And it delivers everything on time to your sites. But it also allows for a return feed without an encoder at that site. So your encoder decoder box at that site allows you to have a return feed to your broadcast campus or your broadcast truck, whatever the situation you guys may be looking at.
So here's probably a question that I have. So you have RIST, RIST, which is an open source format.
Yep.
You have SRT, which is not proprietary format. SRT only does video. Is that correct? And so it only doing video. You're telling me that RIST will do video, will do audio, not just embedded, but separate.
Yeah, audio separately.
It's something we talked about before. It'll do Dante.
Yeah.
It'll do intercom channels.
Yep.
It'll do PTZ control. So that's some major remote control, and definitely a lot different. Is it encrypted?
It is encrypted. RIST has security, really good security with it.
Really good security.
Yeah.
I was like, tell me exactly what.
No, it's super secure. It uses basically news networks use it. So, you've got to have a good security protocol there going on with your.
Okay. We have a question here. Would love to hear which specific CDNs and hardware encoder decoder and time slip device you were actually using at Compass or other churches in the past. Okay. So one thing, I will tell you this for Compass. You can speak to Compass.
Yeah.
In the past, I've used some time slip devices that actually are no longer made or not on the market right now. FOR-A offers a time slip device. I've also used like an old school, which isn't even made right now, which is a Grass Valley G2 or K2.
Yeah, K2.
And those aren't even around. So there are multiple time slip devices that you can use. I would use one most of the time at a church. You have volunteers, especially if it's a remote campus. You have a volunteer that is helping use that. You may have a production director, but you have volunteers. I would say that the UI for whatever that time slip device is, the UI needs to be user friendly out the wazoo. It needs to be something where a volunteer can take it. You have a screen, they can drag it, they can pause it. You know exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's easy to use. You're looking for ease of use.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can use a smartphone, you can use this.
Yeah.
So I would say whatever time slip device that is, please make sure that it's user friendly. For CDNs in there,
I've used anything from Resi to Subsplash to Amazon Web Services, a wide variety of stuff that I've used over the past, at least, all here at Compass, by the way. So.
This isn't like a promotion or say, hey, this is the one to use, but I love Restream.
Yeah.
And I love Restream primarily because of the cost of it and what it actually gives you. And it's pennies compared to a lot.
Yeah.
So you still need, no matter what appliance that you use, you still need a CDN in there. But one of the things you have to take a look at, and you've experienced that here at Compass, is your ISP.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
So ISP, sometimes a CDN will get you with buying bandwidth or using the amount of bandwidth that they're providing for you. So for instance, I had a CDN here at Compass that tried to sell me on, oh, you got 500 megs up, 500 megs down with us. Well, my ISP, I'm only paying them for 100 up, 100 down. So they're, you got to be careful when you're talking with a CDN on how much bandwidth you're actually buying from them, because if your internet service provider that you're using is less traffic than your CDN is offering you, it's useless. So if you're paying for 100 up, paying for 100 down, tell your CDN you want 100 up, 100 down at whatever site you're broadcasting from.
So you're telling me someone will sell you something that you don't need,
that you're not going to use.
Oh,
that you're actually not going to use.
Hey, how about that? No, that would never happen.
Yeah, but it might drive your costs up for your, if you guys are at a church, for you guys at the church, or if you're an integrator, your clients that you guys are working with. So, and I'm going to do a shameless plug of time slip playback here. I've got the FOR-A shirt on, so I'm gonna plug our Insight server real quick. We've got a product line with Insight that actually, if you're familiar with any of the old Grass Valley products, it looks, it's a similar device that I want to use as a time slip playback for multi-site purposes.
Yeah.
Because it'll take your video in, you'll record it, and then you can time slip that playback.
Excellent. So those are some CDN. Hey, great question in there. That question came from Jeff. There's probably a more extensive conversation with that, where we can get into some great manufacturers, some great services, and some people. We won't get into it in the webinar, but we can get into that offline. So if you contact either one of us, and our contact information is also going to be in the chat. So please email us, please reach out to us, and we would love to connect with you and answer any of those questions that we really can't get into on the webinar. But we're pretty open book. We've been doing this a while.
I love to talk about it. I'm with FOR-A as sales, but I've always been a production guy, whether it's the video director or production manager, so talking gear, that's my favorite thing. So
good deal. Okay. So as we talk SRT, as we talk wrist in there, and go, okay, being an open source risk, and you're telling me, okay, I can take multiple things and put it down this tunnel. There is a device, and this really isn't sales for FOR-A or anything like that, but there is a device on the horizon called SORA. So it is a device that is going to be displayed and out there. You may have seen it at a trade show, that can do some multiple things, and it uses wrist, but it also has the availability of multiple inputs and taking that to a different campus. I know it seems like every church has a Dante network in here, and to actually do that to another campus, intercom across campuses, and you have an IP network that most people try to do some IP intercom off of. It'd be great to use all of that in one box and make sure it's all encrypted, it's all in sync together. So those are some things that are coming, and not that this is all about SORA. It's really about, hey, how do you save money? How are you a good steward of the church? And really ditching some of those subscription fees. And by the way, I'm a huge graphics user, all that. Major graphics company a couple of years ago switched from buying product to a subscription service every month. Seems like everybody wants to do subscription services because it's a great business model. There's great money in there. There's cash flow every month in there. But at the end of the day, are you actually spending more money is your church spending more money
Yep.
than what it needs to, when you could actually just buy the hardware, and then there may be a small subscription like a CDN that you put up there, but you're not paying all this money for a particular service. So
Yep.
All right. So some questions.
Real quick, we got a question from Jeff. How do you spell Sora? If you actually look at Satoshi's Zoom box, you've got a QR code right there that you can scan. That'll bring you to FOR-A's website and direct you to the Sora page. So
that's pretty good right there. By the way, that QR code does work. I tested it
we
out.
both tested it right before we started.
So there you go. So look at that. Look at that background. So FOR-A.
Sora.
So Sora, there you go. So a couple more questions when it comes to streaming. All right. And this one is probably more on the user end of your control room. One of the things that we've talked about before is you probably don't want to use up a staff person or a volunteer to monitor your stream that goes up to the CDN or goes out to another campus. What would be a great way in your control room, so you don't have to have somebody in another room or somewhere monitoring all that? What's a great way to actually monitor that in your control room using your current personnel that are in there?
Yeah. As far as monitoring it, getting it started, there's several CDNs that allow you to start and stop automatically. The stream itself, so you're not having to mess around with a web GUI or an IP address that hits your encoder to actually physically start and stop that. So that's something that's usually offered from CDNs. And then as far as monitoring it, I actually learned this trick from you and implemented it.
Oh, hey,
last
how
week.
about that?
Is on my multi-view on the weekend, I actually have a return feed from, I pull it up on my laptop, put that into my switcher, and on my multi-view, I've got a box for an actual return feed of my stream live on YouTube. So it's a good way to do that. So
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Awesome. So great way. If you're there, video director, you have control room that is set up, just put a pip in there that is your return feed, and you can just look at that. That's a great way. People are like, oh, I never thought about it. Yeah, it takes a glance, and you know immediately if it's working or if you have a problem with it. And it's not about if you have a problem,
it's when
you have a problem, because it seems like with a streaming CDN, no matter who you use, that there will always be an instance with a problem. Okay, let me ask you this, and this is kind of a trick of the trade here. How soon do you start your stream before service starts?
I always start it at least 5 minutes before we get started. That way, if you got a countdown pre-service or something like that, you can actually look, at your stream and pull it up and make sure you got audio, make sure you got video on all of your online destinations or your multi-site destinations. I have a group chat with our Casa Grande campus here at Compass where, they text me the second they see our feed come in, and that's makes everybody's lives easier. So
and everybody goes, we're good.
Everybody takes a deep breath and moves on with their Sunday. So
all right, we have a question here from Scott Evans. Can you talk about how Sora handles sync to multi-campus? All right, Satoshi, you want to take that one there?
I'll take it.
Oh, you want to take it?
Oh, thank you, Will.
Yes. So the way that Sora is handling actual I'm assuming your sync is you're making sure everything is on time. So once everything gets into our wrist tunnel, we're able to we're able to clock that going in to the tunnel. So everything is arriving on time at your multi-site campus on time. So your Dante, your multi-tracks that you might be sending down, your multiple camera feeds, everything is clocked with.
So you're telling me that if it's in sync and it's clocked going into the wrist tunnel, that it's encrypted and it's going to be arriving at that same time and clocked on
the REST protocol allows you to make sure that everything is in sync on time arriving at your multi-site campuses. So
okay,
it's a fun feature with RIST. It's one of the benefits of using it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of times with multi-campus, I know you have embedded audio. You can go to old school encoders. Some have forward error correction in there, some things like that. But it's, hey, audio's embedded. It's great. Boom. You hook up an SDI to it. boom, it goes through the IP, ends up at the other end, and you're like, oh, it's all great.
Yeah.
But it seems like that just does video.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you're telling me with wrist
what we're talking about with Sora and with wrist specifically is we could take a lot of churches use Ableton. I could take all 16 channels or 32 channels of those Ableton, break that out over several inputs of a Sora server, take that with your video, take your Dante network as well, slap that on another channel, and all of that will arrive on time at your multi-site location.
So I can send stems, I can send video.
Yep.
I can send Dante. I can send embedded audio if I want to, separate Dante. I can send intercom, and all of that can go down this one tunnel.
Yeah.
And a device on each end.
Yep. Now you could take that one step cooler and put it on a VPN, and you've got full blown control over.
So I can get, if I have PTZs at a remote campus,
Yeah.
I can control those PTZs
from your broadcast campus or your broadcast trucks or your, whatever your case may be for that. I know we're talking a lot of church right now, but it's the same way across the board for if you're at a news station or if you're at a broadcast truck or, a production house doing something in your studio. And then you're also on site at a location that allows you to do that.
I'm mischievous enough that I would totally use that and mess with people at the other campus.
Oh,
If I had
absolutely.
control.
Absolutely.
That's why you should never give me control. All right. So a couple more questions in here.
We've got a question from Jeff. What is the delay of sending all of these audio video feeds over wrist in your experience? It's not in our experience, specifically at FOR-A, it's not a matter of actual delay. Latency, as you think of latency, we're actually counting frames. So when we did very early testing of this with our headquarters in Japan, we're able to go from Cypress, California to Japan and back. And we've got like a 20 frame difference in what we're actually seeing there. So it's pretty good.
That's really good.
Yeah. When you're not counting milliseconds, you're counting, frames at that point. It's everybody's happy. So
gotcha. Okay. So here's a question in here that I had from before. So if I'm production guys are always at church,
mm-hmm.
or they're always on location, there's always something to do. What if you wanted to sit at home and control the things at church from home? Can you do that over SRT? And then can you do that over wrist?
You could do it over wrist. I have not attempted it over SRT, but SRT, as the protocol is, it's audio embedded into video. You don't really get VPN controls available to you with SRT. And so with wrist, as long as you've got that VPN available to you, if you can remote into one of your computers at your broadcast campus, you're able to still use that VPN from wherever you are.
All right.
So when I travel with FOR-A, I remote into my broadcast campus and be able to program or change stuff like that. So.
Okay. Think about this. If I had PTZ set up in this room and you were traveling, and you were able to get in through the wrist tunnel, could you control those PTZs remotely from wherever you were?
If I've got internet, I'm good to go.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome. All right. For you guys that have joined us and people have joined us, people hopped on and off, if you would, please put your name in the chat there. Please put where you're from and what organization or church that you represent. If you would put that in the chat. And then if you guys have any questions for us, please put that in there and we'll do our best to answer those. If you would also, and this is just for our personal enjoyment. So if you would put what your favorite Christmas song is, because it's Christmas time and you've been hearing Christmas music since the end of October, so you're probably sick of it by now. But if you would just put your favorite Christmas song in there, we just want to know that. We're not going to do anything with that. We just really want to know it. And there have been no Mariah Carey takers on this webinar yet.
I'm disappointed.
Which is great.
I'm disappointed in that.
So, but Wham, definitely.
We got a question from Strata, which is funny because you're sitting right here next to me.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Nice.
We got a question. What video compression scheme is used by Sora? And we're just using H.264, going over that wrist tunnel for video. I'm sure we'll support other protocols, but the main protocol we're using right now, just as any other video encoder, is at H.264. So
That's awesome. All right, got some people here. Brian, Scott, Stephen, Timothy. Man, a lot of people in there. So all at valleybaptist.org.
Valley Baptist, good to see you.
So absolutely. So the Christmas song. Thank you for that very much. Okay, so if you guys have any questions in there, if you would put that in there. We have one last one, and this is a question. When will Sora be available in there? So that's a question that came up. And Satoshi, you can probably talk a little. By the way, we have Little Drummer Boy. Thank you.
It's a good one.
So Satoshi, you can probably talk a little more to that as far as availability.
I hope we can deliver it as a Christmas present to you, but maybe a little bit late on the Christmas present, like January timeframe.
Okay.
We can do that. And then as Will and Alfred say that, please look at my background. You can scan this QR. You can go into the Sora, more explanation there. And then this is very much software-oriented product, so very flexible, like ST2110 to the NDIs or H264, any format flexible, and the channel is 2-channel, 4-channel, 6-channel, 8-channel. You can expand, so it's easier. So as I think Alfred, you mentioned, like if you choose a product or solution, has to be intuitive, easy to use, even for the volunteer. So that we try come up with some solution for streaming. So, and then flexible, upgradable, expandable. So that is the Sora solution. So yes, please come to the visit. And yes, from January, we try to send a gift to you.
Awesome. I know you mentioned a great thing as far as expandable and upgradable. I know at a church, you never want to buy a product. Sometimes you have to, but just as one purpose, and it's almost at its end of life already with just that one purpose. One of the great things with Sora is it is expandable. So say right now that you only need it to do video and you need it to do Dante. Those are the two things that you need it to do. You can expand that over the course of how your system grows, how your control room grows, how your church and your campuses grow. You can expand that to add multiple things, but you've already bought the main hardware. You're just expanding those tunnels, but it's still going down the same tunnel. So that is a great thing. We forgot to mention that earlier. This is a great product for church because churches don't want to waste money, and you want to spend that money once and then add the necessary things that you add. And this is a great product to build for the future and to use that and look for the future as it is upgradable. That's a great point.
And piggybacking off of that a little bit, there is no more encoder decoder. It's one unit, so you don't have to buy an encoder and a decoder for your multi-site. It's use the same box. You slap a return feed on that to your broadcast campus.
Let me buy an encoder. Let me buy a decoder for half the price and try to figure out all that. Oh, I need a return feed.
Yeah,
let me buy another set of those.
That's all taken care of for you in one unit.
That's killer. All right. As we turnkey, there you go.
Yeah,
that's
turnkey
awesome.
Solutions.
So as we kind of close out here, a couple of things. Adam has one thing: walking in a winter wonderland. So we want to say this. We know that you guys are busy this season. We know that as productions, as things are ramping up for Christmas, it's a few short weeks condensed in there, all the preparation for this time. We just want to say thank you for taking time today. Mm-hmm. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to spend a few minutes with us talking through this. There are more things to come from FOR-A and some great things in January. So as this progresses, please stay tuned. Please scan that QR code. And in there, and if there's a way to get your information, I'm sure you already have seen the emails, you register for the webinar, but there are some great things that are coming down the road and some new products that really are going to be fantastic and could possibly be game changers when it talks about streaming and the way that you actually do this in churches. So we just want to tell you guys, Merry Christmas. Thank you for spending time with us. And if you have any more questions, please reach out. Like I said in the chat, Will's information's in there, my information's in there. Please out, and we would love to connect with you. And if we don't know the answer, we know someone who does, and we will find that answer for you.
Yep, absolutely.
May I add one? So again, let me echo Alfred. Thank you very much for joining this webinar. I hope it's a good webinar for you. If you think so, please send a smiling mark to us on the chat column anyway. This is the second time we did. So first of the production, this is a streaming. So not only the question, if you have any request, you would like to know about any production issue on the house of worship, we would like to conduct another webinar for you. And I'm a representative of FOR-A, but this webinar is not the sales pitch webinar to the people. This is more like one-on-one, as Alfred said. We try to talk about what the issue is, what kind of solution is available. So I really do not want to push just for a solution, but there are a variety of solutions, like you do the streaming, cloud services or point-to-point. But not only encoder, decoder, you may need to have server, or you may need to have other gear. So total system gonna need it. So Will and Alfred is expert on the system build up. So not only the technical issues, we can answer to your question, consultant. Maybe Alfred gonna sell not the FOR-A products in that, but I don't know. But that is our purpose. So I would like to continue this webinar. So please give us more feedback. This is good webinar, or more you want to know these ones, or anything. So that'd be great. So
Excellent.
Again, thank you very much for today's joining us.
Yeah. If you guys have additional ideas that you're like, hey, we'd really like this particular topic to be discussed, please reach out to us and let us know this, because we wanted to actually be helpful for you as either an integrator or an end user or a church. We want it to be helpful for you, that you're like, hey, this is something that I need to know, or this is something that I can actually send a link to my team and they can watch this and actually educate them, because it really makes all of the as we learn. So with all that, thank you guys.
Yes, thank you
for being here. And
then I'm a president of FOR-A. So if you refer my name to FOR-A in salespeople, you can get the extra discount. So you're gonna say that you joined this webinar, then you can get the good advantage.
Yep, there you go. That's awesome. Satoshi, thank you for taking time to join us. And hopefully we will see you guys soon on another webinar. All right.
Awesome.
Later, guys.